we have our foundations in place. These are going to be our building blocks. Again, we can build upon them if needed. We can remove things if needed. But right now we have a really, really great starting point to start building out our components. So I'll keep this here on the top, and we're going to move a little bit downwards, and let's use the text in here to create a button. I want to use the button text style that we have, and let's just, for the sake of it, use white as text. Shift A to create an auto layout. Since we already decided this is going to be some kind of a responsive web application, I'm gonna make the buttons a little bit smaller than what you would usually have on some websites or just like web only products. I think something like 40 or 48 is going to be great because it allows us to have more and more elements in here, which is often kind of a problem with space, that when you're working on a web application, you need to squeeze in a lot of feature in a small amount of space, so it's better to keep some of these components a little bit smaller than usual. So what I'm often debating is like button size 40 or 48, the right size for me. I'm gonna keep it at 40 right now. I think that's gonna be fine. And let's make this button like this. One other thing that's connected to Foundation, and it's connected to the kind of design tokens that we have in design systems, which are like one place where something is defined and it's reused in other places, and also kind of developers share the same language when it comes to those things as well. Again, if some of these topics are too advanced for you, that's not the point behind this course. This is in no shape or form like a full-on design systems course, but this module is helping you understand how to use Figma to design and also build design systems if needed. So I won't go into too many details on some of these things, but basically what I want to show you is that having a round list like this is something that you're going to define as a design token that's kind of reusable. And if you want to ensure that it's noted somewhere, you can just kind of create another frame in here that says border radius or something like that, and then just kind of include a screenshot of that and write down somewhere that it's going to be a roundness of 6. So we have that, and we can also name this a button just for now, create a different one. I'm going to go up here, I'm going to grab an icon, something like this +1, and I'm going to drag it down, and I'm going to place it inside of this auto layout. I'm going to color it white, and we're going to figure out how to space things in here. So if you remember from our section on auto layout, I do want to kind of control this a little bit differently. So on this side, I'm going to keep it as 16. In here, I'm going to make it 8, and it's already looking a lot better. One thing I would kind of think about is like, do I maybe even want this as a size 20? And then we might need to center this like this. But honestly, it's looking good, so I'm kind of leaning towards keeping it. But I'm not 100% sold, so I'm going to keep it like this just for now. And I'm going to make this 4 instead of 8, because we already are using 8 in here and here and here. So I want to make sure that these two are tighter and kind of more connected than the elements outside of it. Then we are going to need a different button like this. Again, switching the paddings to ensure that it looks more optically aligned. And we can also have a version where it's just the icon. So let's remove this and let's make this. Perfect. Those are the 4 options that we're going to have for something like a primary button. Now, one way to create all of these things is just kind of design all of them and that's it, and then turn them into components. The other way is already turn these into components and then kind of duplicate stuff and create variants based on it. But I think I'm gonna follow that approach. So I'm going to turn this into a component set. It's called button. In here, the main property is going to be like type of button, and this one is going to be text only. This one is going to be icon right, icon left, and icon only. Now when we hit on the button, everything seems to be working. There are no more errors. I'm gonna turn this, well, it can be an auto layout, it doesn't have to be. Maybe I'll just make these as an auto layout. Inside, oh, it only works if I do this. Oh, that's a little bit weird, I never noticed that before. But okay, so we now have the primary button as in its default state, and now I'm going to duplicate all of these, and I'm actually going to create a hover state for all of them. So that means that I'm just going to change the color to a darker one, and I'm going to have all 4 of these as an additional variant in here. It's going to be the state. I can have default state, and that's going to be fine. What else are we going to need besides state? Type, something like a priority or use case. Okay, I'll keep this like that for now, and let's go in here. It's not going to be type 8, it's going to be text only. This one is going to be icon right, this one is going to be icon left, and this one is going to be icon only. And all 4 of these are gonna have state as hover, and all of these are gonna have state as default. Okay, for all of these the use is primary. Perfect. You can control this, so don't worry about it. Let's drag these around. Okay. Let's take them, duplicate them, and kind of drag them in here. These ones are going to be selected, or like active. Well, no, that's not the best way to describe it. I'm gonna call it active for now. For the sake of me, I can't remember the right word for it. Sorry for it. It will come, but give me a second. So I'll make this 500 again, and I'm gonna add a stroke to all of these. Something like a 2, and it's gonna be like this light blue one. Perfect. Is it all working right now? So this text only active primary. Active. Okay. I'm gonna drag this down. And instead of active, this is gonna be disabled. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna remove this. We're gonna switch color to a lighter one. And one thing I forgot to do with some of these is add transparency options. So I'm gonna go back into our palette in here. I'm gonna make all of these an auto layout so that even if I make a change in here, it's gonna be reflected. and I'm gonna have ff add 50, something like this. And that means that we're going to have a white that's going to be 50%, so transparent. And I'm going to add it by creating a neutral style, 000, add 50%. I'm going to create the same thing for this as well, because I know I'm going to need it. So let's detach it, go inside, neutral, 900, add 50%. And when it comes to color styles, go here. Let's keep both of them in here. The only thing I forgot to do is actually make this one 50%. So perfect. Okay, so now I can go back to these disabled buttons, and instead of white, let's make it 50%. Now they're really noticeable and disabled. Okay, so we have all of our primary buttons. All of those options are now available as variants, and we can kind of turn them on and off as needed. Let's make this a little bit smaller, and the size of this, like, is it 24? No, it's 16. Cool. So that's the first row in here. Let's duplicate all of these, add a little bit more spacing in here, and instead of calling them primary, let's call it secondary. And the button should, yeah, the component is not working. So the secondary ones, we're gonna kind of reverse. So they're gonna use a lighter shade of blue, and they're gonna use blue for text. Not sure if I'm gonna use 700 or 500. I think this will pass the accessibility standards, and we can always check with a plugin. So let's just use one contrast checker. Select a frame, this one, check. Maybe I just need to drag it outside of the component. Maybe I also need to detach it to do it. Yeah, it seems like it. So the text lightness 5.5, one error is found. A compliant, it's not AAA compliant, but I think that's going to be fine for this. So let's keep it like that. When it comes to the hover state, let's turn 700 into 300, and let's make this 700. Let's make all of these 200. For the stroke, we can keep the 300, but this needs to go back to 500. And finally, for the disabled buttons, we need to go all the way down to 100. And when it comes to the color, let's just use something like 400. Okay, so we've created the secondary buttons. What are some other buttons that we might need? We might need, if I'm not mistaken, we have a promoted or like accent palette as well. So let's do that. In here, promoted or accent. Again, just like naming is something that you're going to work on if it makes sense to you and if it makes sense to the team. Let's call it like that. So for all of these, when it comes to white, I will switch it or keep it. Well, I don't know. I'm just going to first switch this to see the accessibility. It looks like it's going to work. So I'm going to go in here, make this 700, go in here, make this 300, go in here, and let's make this 300. With this at 50%, it's going to be fine. Okay, so all of this should be fine as well. and let's do an error button, and let's leave it at that. I don't think I'm often using something like a success button, so for now I'm gonna leave it. I just make this error in here. All the 300 orange ones are turned into red ones, all of the 300s are turned into red ones, and all of the 700 red ones. Perfect. And let's make this like that, plus 16. Let's take this button outside and let's see what we can do. So we have text only, icon right, icon left, icon only, hover, active, disabled, default, icon right, secondary, promoted, error, and basically you can use these as needed. Now, one thing that we haven't defined, especially if this is going to be responsive, is the fact that if we're going to stretch some of this, and there's two approaches. We can make different buttons for mobile that we're going to use, or we can make this kind of respond to all of the mobile sizes. So if we do something like this, that's probably going to be better. So I'm just going to do that on all of these, and that means that if we have something like this, which is a pretty solid mobile button, things are going to scale as needed, and that's going to be fine. The only thing that we are going to miss is like text long button example. So like it's still working, but it's not responding to those sizes, and that happens when you stretch it, because then the width becomes fixed and it's not like this hugging the content. Okay, so we have our button ready and we can build from there. Let's keep it in here. Again, I am very systematic when it comes to spacings, so I'm just gonna make this like that, and let's switch to another component.